I thought it was you guys. So first of all, I'd like to seek the blessings of all the devotees here. Like doing the talk of the inauguration of a festival, that's like big. But Maharaj asked me a few weeks ago, when he first asked, I thought you were actually telling me a joke. But then Maharaj was quite serious. And I'm actually quite grateful that Maharaj asked me to speak today, because for 2 weeks I was meditating on what to speak about today and about the holy name. And I've learned quite a lot, I must say. So I seek your blessings that I can share something with you today that can hopefully help you in your process of bhakti, and it'll be very discussion based as well. So I chose a verse from Bhagavatam, which maybe we can recite, and then we will take it from there, basically. So this is from 7th Canto, chapter 13, verse number 31. And I'll just read the translation, read a little bit of the purport. So it's mentioned here, materialistic activities are always mixed with 3 kinds of miserable conditions: Adhyatmic, Adidevic, and Adibhautic. Therefore, even if one achieves some success by performing such activities, what is the benefit of this success? One is still subjected to birth, death, old age, disease, and the reaction of his fruitive activities. So this is a purport, Prabhupada. According to the materialistic way of life, if a poor man, after laboring very, very hard, gets some material profit at the end of his life, he's considered a success. Even he again dies while suffering 3-fold miseries: Adhyatmic, Adidevic, and Adibhautic. No one can escape the 3-fold miseries of materialistic life, namely miseries pertaining to the body and mind, miseries pertaining to the difficulties imposed by society, community, nation, and other living entities, and miseries inflicted upon us by natural disturbances from earthquakes, famines, droughts, floods, epidemics, and so on. If one works very hard, suffering the 3-fold miseries, and then is successful in getting some small benefit, what is the value of this benefit? Besides that, even if a karmi is successful in accumulating some material wealth, he still cannot enjoy it, for he must die in bereavement. I have even seen a dying man begging a medical attendant to increase his life by 4 years so that he could complete his material plans. Of course, the medical man was unsuccessful in expanding the life of the man, who therefore died in great bereavement. Everyone must die in this way, and after one's mental condition is taken into account by the laws of material nature, he is given another chance to fulfill his desires in a different body. Material plans for material happiness have no value, but under the spell of the illusory energy, we consider them extremely valuable. There are many politicians, social reformers, and philosophers who die very miserably, without deriving any practical value from the material plans. Therefore, a sane and sensible man never desires to work hard under the conditions of threshold miseries, only to die in disappointment. Long purport, but the reason why I chose this verse, because it's something that I could connect very well with. When I was at university, and as I was growing up, before coming to Krishna consciousness, I always had this doubt in life. I was thinking, we are in this world and we're trying to achieve success and happiness. But I was just thinking, this doubt kept on coming, like I'm at university now, you have to work hard to get a good degree, and then you go out, you have to work hard to get a nice job, then you have to work really hard to make your way up there in your career, hard work. You have family, then you have kids, you have to raise your kids in a good environment. A lot of hard work, and I wasn't against hard work, but my doubt was that what's the point, because at the end of the day I'm going to have to give everything I achieved up. So what's the point? That was my doubt I always had. And then when I came across this verse, it made sense. So I'll repeat the verse again. Here, in the Bhagavatam is mentioned, materialistic activities are always mixed with three kinds of miserable conditions: Adhyatmic, Adidevic, and Adibautic. Therefore, even if one achieves some success by performing such activities, what is the benefit of the success? One is still subject to birth, old age, death, disease, and the reaction with fruitive activities. So this made sense. So this is what actually made me go deep into spirituality, so that maybe there is more to life than what we see. So this was just the intro for today's talk, because one thing I wanted to share with everyone today is, and we were discussing this earlier on, that the focus of this weekend is the holy name. And one of my biggest challenge or struggles in life is actually chanting. I don't know if you can relate to that, but I do struggle with chanting. And so, whilst in preparation of this seminar, I really got a lot of powerful insights, which I'll be sharing with everyone. But one thing I realized is that in order for us to be successful in life, there has to be a constant introspection in life. We always have to be meditating and reflecting on how our mind is working, how our emotions are working, how we're interacting with people. So today we were speaking with Shiv Prabhu, and he was mentioning something interesting. He said that during japa time is a time when we reflect and introspect, when we're supposed to just listen to the holy name, right? So he asked Bada Hari Prabhu this question, that why is that the case? Why is it that during japa time, when we're supposed to just listen to the holy name, that we start introspecting and reflecting? And Bada Hari Prabhu actually gave him a really nice answer. He said that because we don't do introspection and reflection outside japa, that's the reason why when we do japa, we do all of that. So the idea is that constant reflection has to be there. So what we're going to do today is that, of course, we're talking about the holy name of the weekend. And maybe today's session, what we could do is we can actually get into a discussion and discuss what are specific struggles with chanting. So once we actually understand what are our struggles with chanting, and we list them down, we become aware of it. So then in the coming weekend, when Maharaj and Buddha Bhavana Prabhu are going to speak about the holy name, we can address these issues and find solutions. Does that make sense? Yeah? So what I'd like you to do is, we've got the board here. I'd like you to speak to the person on your left, on your right, or in a group. And what you could do is we can actually break down and come up with lists of struggles that we may have when we're chanting the holy name. It could be anything, okay? And then what we'll do is we'll discuss and see what are the potential solutions. Is that okay? Yeah? So we'll have about 10 minutes. And your time starts now.
Come closer.
So all that mind controlling no matter how hard you try, it just runs away. Maybe in 2 minutes you hear clearly chant, and then there's always something to distract you in a split second, and then takes you very far away. Yeah.
Your mind
Not occasional. If you don't pay 100% attention to the sound and the name, as soon as I don't pay attention, it runs away. And I find that. So I always try, and I know we had a session recently on the class. I take a little bit longer, but I say the holy name, Maha Mantra, slowly and listen. I always listen. So when I chant, it's like Hare, I can tell you. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I don't try and chant very fast. So I'm listening, saying slowly, and try to keep my mind focused on the holy name. It is still a problem because I think our mind is the most anything can happen. Before you know it, before you realize it, it just once it takes you over, and then after maybe few minutes, why am I there? It's gone. It's just run away.
I have this internal argument on the side where I start getting distracted. Then I chant nicely for maybe 2 months, and then I berate myself for becoming attentive again. So I always have this internal struggle where I'm not actually focusing on Krishna, but I'm focusing on my own away from so I don't think it happens throughout my entire 16 years. 4 or 5 steps. I think one of the problems is that separate Krishna from his own name. Because that connection is strong and great as my I'm not so much Krishna is there. And that's part of the motivation to not get carried away. I need to become maybe
Rolling lines, solving problems.
Mind wakes up, more problems.
Reflect on it. If I go, if I get up and just begin work on it, somehow become somewhat immersed in it. Like this morning, I got up and I went to meditating on my heart. also have to say, if I break up my japa with anything, it always lessens the ability to be too.
Prabhupada said that it's better to chant other rounds before.
Well, he recommended that. And it's highly recommended. You have to be practical before getting rest. You're too tired. Let's say, by breaking your rounds up, you find it harder to weaken after a break.
Actually, that's what I want from you. One problem that I always face is getting into the chant. Beginning it's running, it's getting better. But getting into it, that's always kind of struggle. You're beginning to chant, sitting down, leaving the outside inside, and concentrating on the name. I guess this is connected with my rising today, usually. So, when I have risen and when I have finished my morning duties, then usually the life is going on around me. So, distractions everywhere. Anything called I would say getting into it. That's another problem. I think now that whenever I get to chant a good mantra or read good mantras, then I think, oh yes, now I made it and it's gone. And then it's gone. It's always
self-assured success. So, always reconnecting after breaking, solving problems, solving the problem with chanting while chanting. My problem is I start thinking about my service. I start getting ideas on how to organize my day. There's some problem I haven't dealt with. Solution comes up to
Okay, you have 2 minutes.
That was very reasonable. Chanting for introspection, just for introspection. Chant, your mind will think this is the time section. Therefore, you start to think about ideas and effects. So,
nice nice person. He can't go anyplace else. He can't go anyplace else, then he goes. And then you have to wake it up. And you're forced to turn you have to force it enough.
But you said today when you came, actually, you said you're probably
Okay, Hare Krishna.
forget it. Just forget
Okay, so first of all, I want to ask, was that useful? Was that useful? So now, are you aware of our struggles that we have in chanting? Yeah? I mean, this is an exercise I find very useful. Sometimes I go to retreats where I have many problems, but I don't go there with specific issues. So then when I'm listening, it just goes from one ear and comes out the other ear. But now that we're aware of our problems and issues, over the weekend we can be aware and actually tackle it one by one. Okay, so what we could do is, one way of learning is sharing our struggles together, because someone may have a struggle which I may have not acknowledged in myself. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a list of all the struggles and troubles we have in chanting, and we're going to list it down on this board. And hopefully by the end of the weekend, we'll have the answers to all of them, and Monday morning we'll be chanting in ecstasy. Sounds right? Okay, good. So let's make the list. So Shiv Prabhu is going to kindly write, because he's got very neat handwriting. And write neatly, thank you. Okay, so anyone would like to shout out, what are your struggles in chanting? Yes, please.
Like you chanting, you love Krishna back.
Okay.
And then when Krishna said when you chanting more, if you love them, you do it.
Okay, so that's a nice point. If you love someone, then you want to chant more. Okay, so I guess our struggle is what? Developing that love?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and you know, give me some like practical troubles that you have. Like, you know, it's okay to say that when I chant, I'm always thinking about breakfast or something. There's no more. I mean, yes, Maharaj.
We had 5 of us.
Sweet.
So I'll just mention what each one of us
Please.
said. One devotee said, when he gets started in his chanting, and then he breaks, and then he tries to go back, it's not the same. So being interrupted in his japa causes him to struggle a lot harder when he tries to reconnect.
Okay, interrupted chanting
Yeah.
is a struggle. Okay. Thank you.
Another person said, instead of focusing on the holy name, they focus on the problem of not focusing on the holy name. I'm sure Sheep can write that one clearly. Another person said, when he just to get into the holy name is a struggle. In other words, to sit down and really become serious becomes difficult. And once he gets over that, then there's another struggle. The first struggle is to actually fix oneself in the mood of chanting.
Right.
And the other person said, okay, maybe each group can have a spokesman, and then each group can, one person can speak for their group like that, and that way we'll cover everyone.
Yes, absolutely. that was there may be a lot, so you fit it.
And,
Yes,
and
Maharaj.
another person in our group said, which is the common thing, that the mind just goes,
Okay.
gone.
It's going, it's going, and it's gone.
Just going to other places,
Right.
you know, throughout the universe. Then my struggle was, I'm always trying to, my mind goes to my thoughts of the day's activities and coming up with solutions and ideas of how to improve my service, or in other words, my mind wants to tackle the unsolved problems or the plans that haven't been planned out. So it goes to those things.
Right, so japa time generally is like a planning time, to-do list, right?
But I don't plan that. The mind plans it for me.
Maharaj, I have a feeling you made that statement because that's what I'm going through. So, and yeah, it's true. And also, Maharaj, they say that all bright ideas come during japa time. I'm not promoting that; it's not good. Everyone's like, yeah, all great ideas come. That's not how it should be. Great. Anyone else? Anyone? Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj has already planned some few target where I was needed to speak.
Sure.
So Maharaj is already breaking my legs, you know. So the question, my struggle is, like we've been like 6 of us here. Our struggle is when we are chanting.
Yes.
Sometimes we don't have respect about chanting.
Okay.
Because when respect is there, you know everything. If you respect it, you get more benefit. So by not respecting, we don't get the effect of the chanting of the holy name.
Right.
So we refer ourselves in Sri Harinam Chitamani.
Right.
Then we come to understand that the way Maharaj said that sometimes we are chanting, you see someone say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare. And sometimes you keep quiet, you start observing other people. So you are in the japa routine, then Hare Krishna. So we are not completely having that faith.
Yes.
So it's our struggle again.
You can break down other interests.
Yeah, we have other interests. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Guru.
I think that's enough. Maharaj is already break down.
Sure. So we've got some. Okay. Anybody from the Mataji side? Oh, maybe we can get some from. Oh, okay. Roberto is fired up. Go for it.
It's already written half of these things. I don't know about being tired.
Yeah.
I think it's like one of the symptoms. We were also speaking that we don't have also the faith, like that Krishna is like name Krishna. Everything is in this name. It's like it's so hard to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And also I would mention so many times I find myself looking at the clock and like calculating how many rounds I can do. Like maybe 2 more. Okay, maybe if I speed it up I can like maybe do 3 or
Yeah, it
something.
becomes a race against time, isn't it? I asked one devotee a few days ago, like, when are you most blissful in your chanting? Because when I'm on my 16th round. I won't mention the devotee's name. But I could relate to that. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Anybody, yes? Anybody from the Maharaj side? Yes, John. Thank you. Yes.
Hare Krishna. In our group we discussed that sometimes we have like bodily aches and pains whilst chanting,
Yes.
and your mind is focused on the aches and pains as opposed to the holy name.
Right. Yeah, so if you have bodily pains, then you can lie down and chant, so that's fine. Just testing you guys. Okay, yeah, absolutely. When you have aches or some physical ailment, then the mind does wander off. Yes.
Sometimes when I'm chanting, then I realize that I forget some words like Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then again, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And then I realized, what am I doing here? Because I forgot something. Then I go back on my japa, and then I chant again this 2 mantras, 3 mantras. When I realize.
So skipping some parts of the mantras,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, sweet. What's that?
Broken names he wrote.
Broken names. You put that?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Anyone else? Yes, Shida Manji.
We had 4 people in our group, and Mangla and Radha Vinodini shared that they tend to start thinking about the past. You know, this happened, that happened, why it happened, how it happened. Or they go into the future, oh, now I have to fix this, now I should do like that, now I should do like this. And so they tend to not be in the present, is what they shared. And Govardhan Leela shared that when she can really visualize the form of the Lord in her heart, then she feels very connected and her japa flows quite nicely. But when she is not fixated, when she is not really visualizing the Lord, then her mind goes all over the place and she doesn't connect and she doesn't feel that the japa is going anywhere. And for myself, I shared that I tend to have conversations with other people while I'm chanting the holy name. Like I'm talking to my husband, I'm talking to my daughter, I'm talking to everybody, invariably telling them what to do. And instead of listening really to the holy name. And the second challenge I have is making a to-do list. You know, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do that, I have to do that.
So generally happens during japa times.
Yes.
Yes. Mind wanders from past, going to the future, sometimes in the present, not being in the present. Yeah? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other ones?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So in our group we discussed that sometime, like Mataji discussed that our mind wanders, which has been covered already. And one of the problems we also discussed about hearing, that when we are chanting, we're just not able to hear it. We just sometimes, myself, I have a problem that I whisper, I don't say it properly that I can hear it back. And also environment, we discussed that sometime if you're chanting, like if you're doing simultaneously other things, like looking in the fridge, what we need to buy, like problem with Grastha Ashram is that you have your kids, your husband and cooking, you have so many things in your mind going on. So that struggle is there.
Yeah. Okay. You got that? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Okay,
if I just stand in front of the ladies and I look at them clearly and I said, I want to chant for you, I want to please you, please accept, I want to please you and accept it, and then I can chant much easier because then I look at them and sometimes they look happy, so I said, oh, it was okay. So as soon as I do not do that, then it's the point of no respect.
Yes. So you're saying praying helps, is that right?
Yeah.
Like when you're in front of the Lord and you're making like a petition.
And because then if I'm in connection with the Lord, I cannot be without respect.
Okay.
And so that gives me wrong. But that is not every day.
That's not every day. Okay. Thank you. Yes. Any last few points or struggles? Yes. Just let's get it all down, because then we won't leave here until we find a solution to all this.
One more was not finding time for chanting.
Okay.
In one group, and I just came with another one, like chanting mechanical, not with feelings, but just
doing it
for the sake of doing it.
Right. Okay.
Mechanical chanting.
Mechanical chanting and no time. 24 hours is too short.
I think most of it has been said. One was concentration, but also if you've not slept properly, so not gone to sleep early enough the night before, then the next day it becomes a struggle because you keep sleeping.
Yes. So sleeping, right? During japa time.
Being disciplined.
Yes. Yes. That's a big one. Definitely have to connect with that. Yes, Mother Sachi.
I don't know. I would say my biggest personal challenge in chanting is to avoid that fact that I'm chanting just to fulfill my vow.
Right.
You know, when you chanting, just because you said you chant 16 rounds, and then it becomes a burden, then the mind starts going crazy, and he starts being rebellious, and he doesn't want to do it anymore. And it's horrible.
It's horrible, yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
No, you're right. So sometimes it is just, we're duty bound, right? Or because I have to chant, so might as well, isn't it? Right, okay, good. Any last few points? Yes, Mataji in the back.
For me, chanting, especially at the temple in the morning, sometimes I can chant because I hear somebody's japa in the different voice, different tone, different speed, and oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, and I just became very surprised sometimes, and I stop my chanting, and I can't hear myself in this.
Right, yeah. Disturb when you're in temple room and someone's chanting very loudly, and it can disturb your japa as well.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Did we put race against time? Put that one? Oh yeah, race against time.
Yeah, we're going to race against time. Panchatattva. Okay. Yes. She lady. Let's put it all down.
I've also observed that as the day passes, if I have rounds left, then it gets harder and harder as the day goes on, and evening rounds are very difficult. And when I'm up early and I'm chanting early morning in the Brahma Muhurta hours, then of course the flow is easier, mind is not distracted. It's the mode of goodness hour, so that's definitely a big challenge. If rounds are left, then during the day it definitely is harder and harder.
Right. So early morning chanting can be a struggle as well.
Yes.
It's the best, but it can be a struggle, isn't it? Yes. Yes.
I have also one more problem, like organization of the day while I'm working full time.
Right.
Like 9-10 hours a day. I'm at work or on the way to the work and back. So it takes a lot of time.
So like hectic lifestyle also can be a problem, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's definitely, you got that down? Huh?
Planning?
Planning and hectic lifestyle. Sometimes you get... Yes. Is that it, Manji?
Not hectic. I'm going to sleep at the same time and I used to wake up at the same time. But sometimes when I think that I have to go to work, then come home, then eat, take a shower and start to cook, then I can start to chant, or I can start in the morning. But I don't know how to organize it, that I wake up earlier than
lack of proper planning.
Planning, yeah, okay, we've got that, right? You got planning, haven't you? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Priority. Yes, Prabhuji.
Wait till the mic.
Prabhu was given one.
Wait till the mic comes.
Okay, Prabhu was given one. He said, chanting with expectation. Means you're chanting, you're expecting something. And when the result is not there, it's breaking the people down, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the one.
Yes. Thank you.
I forgot to mention, one devotee in our group said something that hasn't been mentioned. He's chanting and then he's feeling the mercy of the holy name. He says, I got it, and as soon as he says, I got it, it's gone. Selfish, overconfident, self-assuredness, thought he captured Krishna. Something like that. That happens. I mean, that's a problem with sometimes. Oh, now I'm in the flow. Okay, and then all of a sudden there's no flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, and someone in the back. Someone had their hands up. Yes, Prabhuji.
Offenses to the devotees. Then the mind is disturbed and it's not the proper mood even to pray. You just think of it over and over again.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? Offenses. Thank you. Okay. Do you think we have enough here? Yeah, if we can conquer this by the weekend, then I think we've achieved a lot, right? Okay, good. So I'm going to hand the solution to Maharaj and Bhuta Bhavana Guru. Once again, we still have like 45 minutes. So I'm going to attempt to address some of them at least, you know. But the wonderful thing is, at least now we know what the problem is. So we know exactly what solution to look for. So this is a really a great exercise that, you know, is very useful and beneficial as well. So when we look at all our struggles in life, you know what it all comes down to? It comes down to one thing. And this is where you start guessing. Huh? Shift, just go to the laptop. When I tell you, change it. Sorry? Yes? Desire. What else?
Inattentive chanting.
Inattentive chanting, but let's just keep it like, you know, yeah, it definitely inattentive chanting, that's what it comes down to. But it all comes down to one thing. How we perceive situation in life comes down to one thing.
Helping Krishna out.
Helping Krishna out, okay. Time, you said time. Two person will go through the same experience, but they will react differently. What is it based on? Perception. Exactly. Someone said it there? Consciousness. That's what it comes down to. So even all our struggles, these are like, you could say externals, but there is something behind that, that if we address that, then we can actually start resolving all of this. So there's a flowchart. Yeah, okay, good. So this is, I heard a class by, a lecture by Prabhupada, and in that lecture Prabhupada was explaining that how can we overcome struggles and obstacles in life? Right? And it all comes down to the reason why we suffer in the world. The reason why we suffer, it comes down to one thing. Right? Negative devotion explains is what? What is the root cause of all suffering? Ignorance, exactly. So, ignorance. Now the question is, ignorance of what? Even before that, what are we ignorant of? Actually, all of you are right, but
our identity.
Identity, yes, Maharaj. So, actually, what we're actually ignorant of is what is our real need. Okay? We don't know what is exactly that we need. We think we know, but we don't. And in order to know what our real need is, you have to know. Okay, so our real need is ananta. Okay, so Prabhupada is explaining ananta means that our real need is that we want pleasure that's never ending. That is what our real need is. Okay? So, now, what we derive pleasure from depends on who we identify with. So identification is a big thing. So they're saying that there's two things that we identify ourselves with. Either we identify ourselves with material things, or material identity, or material consciousness, or spiritual things, or spiritual consciousness. And we'll see that a person with different consciousness will experience different things differently. So let's look at material consciousness. When someone who's on a material plane who has material consciousness, what happens is, if you go to the next one, is that their vision is very narrow. Why is their vision so narrow? Selfish, but why is their vision very narrow?
They have some preconceived idea of what they want.
Yes, that's there. That's there. But one of the reasons why their vision is narrow in comparison to their real need is that they are looking for pleasure just on two planes, physical and mental plane. So therefore, their pleasure is limited. What they want, they can't achieve in these two planes. Okay? And so what happens is, because your pleasure is limited, what happens? Your mind is disturbed. Right? It's like, you know, you're hungry and someone just gives you one bite of pizza. Are you happy? No. You'll be switching, won't you? It's like, no, I want the whole thing. Right? So your mind is very disturbed. Okay? And then when your mind is disturbed, what happens next? This is when illusion kicks in. So what happens is that you think this will give me happiness and pleasure. It doesn't. So then you look for something else, and you look for something else, and that illusion keeps on going round and round. Okay? So, and because of that, what happens? Every situation will lead to frustration and dissatisfaction. I couldn't read that, so thank you. Dissatisfaction. Okay? Now let's look at the other way. Someone who has spiritual consciousness, Why is their vision broader?
Because the spiritual energy is limitless.
Okay, that's right. But let's go specific. Why is people with material consciousness narrow vision, whereas spiritual people with higher consciousness more broader?
They want to serve.
They want to serve, but they actually have access to one whole new dimension. The spiritual realm. Okay? So not only do they actually explore the concept of happiness on a physical, mental level, but also now they've opened themselves up into the spiritual realm. And it is in that spiritual realm where they can find Ananta. Okay? So now they can access real pleasure. They know what they're looking for and they know exactly where to look for it. So when they access real pleasure, what happens? Their mind is peaceful. Doesn't matter what the external situation is. When mind is peaceful, then they're actually in tune with reality. They never get bewildered. They never get phased out. And that's the reason why in every situation with elevated consciousness, you're always satisfied and happy. Okay? So that's why they say those who are very spiritualists, because they have higher consciousness, external situations or external people do not affect them. They're still connected and they're actually, you could say, blissed out because of that connection. Okay? So this is something I just want to share because this model really helps you to understand how we can deal with life struggle. Now the common thing between the two kinds of consciousness is they will go through exactly same troubles and struggles in life, the three miseries. But the way they react to it will be completely different. Okay? It will be completely different. You know, so just because, you know, sometimes there's a myth that if you take up to the practice of spirituality, you know, your miseries will reduce. No, it doesn't. Because as long as we're in this world, miseries will always be there. But what can happen is that you can be equipped with tools whereby you can face these miseries, basically. So that's why Bhaktitirtha Maharaj writes his books with a series of spiritual warriors. So that's the reason why, you know, spiritual practitioners try to become spiritual warriors. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, sweet. So, now that we understand this, so when we come back to the holy name, I want to share, like, I've been studying this book. It's called Broken Names by His Holiness Sachinanda Maharaj. Brilliant book. Like, when I read this book, like, holy names started to make some sense, theoretically. And now, you know, I can see that when I chant my rounds, there is more of a conscious effort. So what I want to do is I want to share some principles from this book that Maharaj addresses, which is amazing. It's so fascinating that a lot of things that we mentioned here, struggles, it gets eradicated by the things that Maharaj has written in this book. So just to give you a background of this book is amazing. It's actually, it's like a story. Maharaj says it's like a novel between specifically three personalities. There is someone called Vishwambara, who's like a sadhaka. He represents each one of us. He interacts with two elevated devotees. His spiritual master, Guru Kripa Maharaj, and there's another Vaishnava called Sanatan Baba. So basically they're having a conversation expressing his doubts about the holy name. So I'm going to share that with you guys and then see if we can actually connect with that. So first thing is that this Vishwambara has big doubts about chanting the holy name. Okay? So he presents loads of questions to his teacher. Right? And he actually explains that, you know, he goes to his spiritual master and he goes that, you know what, I am struggling in this material world. That this desire of sense gratification is too intense. And his spiritual master is actually explaining, yes, sense gratification is a big problem. Why? Because it mentions that the fire of sense gratification actually burns away our spiritual intelligence. Okay? Our intelligence is what helps us overcome different challenges in life. So here, the spiritual master is actually saying, Guru Kripa Maharaj, that because of sense gratification, we burn away our intelligence. And what's the consequence of that? The consequence of that is that we don't know who we are, we don't know who Krishna is, and there is no, and actually material desires keep on increasing. Okay? So now, his spiritual master actually explains that what you need to do is you need medication, okay? And that medication was given by who? Lord Chaitanya, 525 years ago. Does that make sense? Okay? So this is the introduction. So he's saying that if you want to control your mind, purify your conscience, purify your heart, you have to actually take this medicine of chanting the holy name. Okay? Now, he's not convinced. It's like, what, just chanting? How does it work? So now they break down the whole science of chanting. Okay? So, in the conversation, basically they say that in order for you to clean your heart, right, there has to be connection to Krishna. Okay? Only when Krishna comes to your heart does the heart get purified. Okay? So now the question arises, how can Krishna come to our heart? Chanting, service, these are, let's say I'm going to play devil's advocate, okay? So, like, chanting, like, you guys all chant? Is Krishna in your heart? It is. Right? So why are we having this seminar this weekend? Is Krishna in our heart? Sometimes he could be, but there are times where he's not, right? So does chanting actually work? Yes, Prabhu.
I remember Krishna said that I'm inside you, but you are not inside me. Means Krishna is in our heart.
Yeah, that's fine. He's hanging there in my heart, but I'm not experiencing him. So maybe there's another way Krishna...
Maybe because of smarana.
Remembrance, okay. Okay, anyone else? Thank you, Prabhu.
When Krishna, when he hears me, I listen to my... When Krishna says to me, Krishna wants to do it, he's telling me I have to do chanting more and less. And he tells me to do it.
Okay, good. So when we're connected to Krishna, we can do that. But let's talk more about the connection. How can we get connected to Krishna?
Help him.
A relationship.
Through relationships, okay, association.
Yeah.
Imagine you're going to say something?
Mercy.
Mercy, okay. These are very spontaneous answers we're throwing out. I want to know systematically. Yes, Shri Maji.
Through prayer, by preparing to receive Krishna.
Okay.
Pray for the mercy of the Lord.
So by praying, Krishna comes in the heart. Okay. If you want to know, like, I want Krishna, I want to connect with Krishna, what's the process?
Service.
Hearing, service. What did Prahlad Maharaj say?
Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Vandanam Dasyam Achanam Sakya Atmanivedanam.
Shri Devi Mataji thought this is a test. Well done.
I just finished Bhakti Shastri.
Okay. Alright, good. So 9 processes. But, now this is very interesting. Sanatana Goswami compares the different angas of bhakti and their effectiveness. Sanatana Goswami actually explains that by hearing from scriptures and from the lips of the devotee is like binding Krishna to your heart with a silk thread. Okay? But what's the problem with that? It breaks. Krishna's independent, he can go away very easily. So that's the power of hearing. It at least binds Krishna. So that's a start. But it's a silk thread. Then he goes, even more powerful than that is meditation. Smarana. Why? Because the king of the senses is involved in this, which is who?
Mind.
The mind. Okay? So because the king of the senses is involved in here, it's more effective. So then Sanatana Goswami explains that you're binding Krishna with a rope. But can that stop Krishna from going away? No, he can also go away. But Sanatana Goswami says, Kirtan, it is a very effective way because it binds Krishna with an iron chain. And this also actually involves the mind, so it's more effective. So that's the reason why Kirtan is very effective. Reason why is because there's emotions, there's affection, and that's what keeps the mind intact. So Kirtan is very powerful. So now let's break this down. Why is the name of Krishna so powerful? So
it's Krishna.
It's Krishna. That's great. I really, like Marge, when I read all this, I really said, really? Okay, so it's Krishna, so why can I not chant anything else? I really needed to break it down so then my mind can actually understand. Yes, Raj?
Krishna is the sum total of everything.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. The holy name is powerful because it is Krishna, for sure. What, any other reasons? What is meaning?
Because in Brahma Samrita, say Aishvarya Paramat Krishna, so he's the cause of all causes.
So the holy name is cause of all causes.
Yeah.
I desire to have pizza. I'm chanting. Can I get pizza? And not any pizza, I want from Holy Foods. Doesn't work, right? No. But no, you're right. Actually, is Mother Sachi here? Sachi Mata's here? You mentioned something. Maybe you could share with us? Remember I asked you about why the holy name is so powerful? You mentioned some jewel.
Well, I just read it in the book, and it says the holy name is a Chintamani,
yes.
and it can fulfill everyone's desires. So to the materialistic people, he's fulfilling their desires by, help me out please. Now, through, okay, I have the book, and to the devotees who have pure desires just to serve Krishna, he's giving them his full total mercy.
Yes.
And the prema and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So holy name is very powerful, like Mara said, because it's not different to Krishna. The holy name, it gives you full taste, full joy, it brings attachment to Krishna, and it fulfills all desires. So you have to be careful when you chant with your desires. But most importantly, it's mentioned in this book that the holy name is like a treasure chest. Right? A treasure chest, everyone's aware of it? Now what happens, what's in a treasure chest? Treasure. What treasure are we talking about here?
Holy name.
No, that's the holy name. Within holy name there's a treasure chest. What is in there? Yes. In this treasure chest is actually your own personal relationship with Krishna, which in due course of time gets revealed. That's the power of the holy name. We suffer from something called spiritual amnesia, and just by chanting the holy name in the right mood with the right process, you can actually rediscover what is your relationship, who you are, and your connection with Krishna. So it is very powerful. So again, now, doubt still comes. This sounds all great. Is holy name all compassionate and merciful? Is it?
Yes.
Right? So then why can't it just give me that realization straight away? I'm chanting. I've been chanting for the last 6 years. Right? So why can't I do it? Every day I've been chanting 16 rounds for the last 8, 9 years. So why can't I have that effect? If it's compassionate, then you should just give it away, no?
Right.
Yes. Marish.
I don't know if this answers your question. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that for one who is offending devotees, the holy name drives that person away from the association of devotees.
Yeah.
It chastises the person. So the person who is, when we say continuously offending devotees, the holy name actually berates them, beats them, and drives them away.
Yes.
So that's another form of how the holy name works. So
yes.
It's looked at, it actually is a chastiser also.
Yes. Yes, Maharaj, that's one of the points I was going to mention, that we're going to come back to the point of offense. Actually, all our struggles roots back to this one thing, offense. And out of the 10 offenses, like there's few, but offending Vaishnava is like very prominent. So we're going to speak about that. But in this book actually mentions that the holy name is very compassionate, but it's because of this offense, it doesn't take effect. Just like, you know, a straw. Everyone's familiar with a straw? Can a straw always be ignited by fire?
No, if it's wet, no.
If it's wet, no. So similarly, sometimes a sadhaka can be spiritually wet, and hence the holy name does not have an effect. Okay? Again, this sadhaka is explaining, but that still doesn't make sense, that he's not all merciful and compassionate. There is a distinction. Yes, Masashi? Mixed desires, right.
Yes, our desire to please Krishna is not the only one.
Right.
And we actually don't want just to please him. Maybe it could be even a hidden trick, like we want to please ourselves by pleasing Krishna. So how is that actually for his satisfaction?
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, because of mixed desires. So we say, like I said, like I want love of God, but maybe I have subtle desires, hence it's not being reciprocated. But all these answers are true. Maharaj explains in this book also very interestingly that even though we say Krishna and the holy name is not different, there is a difference. Okay, there is a difference. It's mentioned that when the heart is contaminated and it's got a lot of material dirt, Krishna does not come. Krishna does not come, and that's the reason we don't experience it. However, the holy name is so powerful that holy name becomes an enthusiastic sweeper trying to sweep our heart, making it clean, so then Krishna can come. Does that make sense? That's the power of the holy name. Okay? But again, the sadhaka is questioning, but still, why does it take so long time, such a long time? Why do we have to wait for such a long time? So it's not that we have to wait for Krishna. It's actually Krishna who's waiting for us. Okay? So in this, Guru Kripa Maharaj is explaining that actually we are the ones who are keeping the dirt hidden from the sweeper. So there's a sweeper, he's trying to clean the heart, but we're hiding it away. We want to hide it because we are attached to those things. And that's the reason why it doesn't fully get cleansed. So it's not that we're waiting for Krishna. Krishna's actually waiting for us, that when we're going to let go of these material things, material desires. Now, we mentioned one point here, Maharaj, you mentioned here that someone's struggle was interruption during chanting. Is that right? So actually it's mentioned even in 3rd canto of Bhagavatam that the only way a transformation happens is when there is uninterrupted practice of bhakti. Okay, as soon as there's a break in the practice, in our chanting, as soon as there's irregulation, there is breakage, then the whole process starts again. So it's constant, insistent exposure to bhakti without interruption is what will give that effect. So it's very interesting. I thought that, there is like one day we're fired up, another day we're not, next day we're fired up. It doesn't quite work like that. There has to be consistency, and then the transformation actually takes place like that. So what I want us to do, so these are just few thoughts. So this book is very interesting. I just want to share one or two things that this book actually explains. Now, one of the things that I find very astonishing is this offense bit. That one of the reasons why there is struggles in chanting is because of offense to devotees, Vaishnavas. Okay? Now, in this book, it's very nicely explained that just like how unintentional chanting can give you benefit, unintentional offenses also has a negative effect. Okay? Now, in here, it's actually given a very beautiful pastime of Prahlad Maharaj. That even if we cause an offense unintentionally to a Vaishnava, there is a heavy consequence. And it can even have an effect on someone who's a pure devotee, can also switch. So here there's a wonderful story that is recited here, and it explains that one day Prahlad Maharaj was actually doing his puja to his deities, and then his servants come and say, there's 2 devotees come to see you. And Prahlad Maharaj is like, oh sure, I'll come and see them, let me just finish my puja. So he was so absorbed in his puja, in his worship, that he actually forgot about the Vaishnavas. And in due course of time, the Vaishnavas thought maybe he doesn't want to see us, so he left. So there was that bit of an offense. And as soon as that offense took place, Prahlad Maharaj had shift in consciousness. All of a sudden, he just kind of woke up and he thought, what was I doing? How can I side, how can I actually be on the side of someone who's an enemy of me? This Vishnu killed my father, so he becomes all angry. He said, and then he orders his army that get the armies ready, we're going to go to Vaikuntha and defeat Lord Vishnu. You can imagine the shift in consciousness. And then, at that time, Narad Muni comes and pacifies Prahlad Maharaj, and then everything's back to normal. But this was a point just to emphasize the power of offenses to Vaishnavas. And they say actually, not just Vaishnavas, anyone that we see, we don't know who's a Vaishnava. So it's very important that respect is maintained with anyone and everyone that you meet. Because one of the things is when devotees are very dear to Krishna, and whenever a devotee is offended or hurt, actually Krishna is hurt. And there's a beautiful story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita where Haridas Thakur was ordered to be beaten in 22 marketplace. Do you guys remember this? So there's a story with Haridas Thakur. He was chanting, the king was envious of him, so he ordered his guards to beat Haridas Thakur in 22 marketplace. And Haridas Thakur, he's transcendental, he was just chanting and he was praying to the Lord that please forgive these offenders. So then the Lord couldn't do anything. So what does the Lord do? He actually covers Haridas's body so that the whipping that Haridas got, actually the Lord takes. And then later on there's an incident when the Lord actually shows the marks that he takes. So the idea is that whenever Vaishnava is hurt, it's actually Krishna that's hurt as well. So that's one point I really wanted to share, which really resonated with me as well. Vaishnava pride. One thing is also, now this is also very interesting. Many times we say that sometimes we chant, we do someone says Krishna, but Krishna doesn't reciprocate. Do you ever feel that? Yeah? It happens, right? Oh, Krishna, I woke up for Mangalarti this week, no connection. You know what, next week I'm going to take a break. It doesn't work like that, right? Sometimes it feels Christians are reciprocating. But even him not reciprocating, there's a whole purpose behind it. Who feels, out of all the devotees, who feels the most neglect of Krishna, no matter how much devotion they do? Who feels most neglected? The gopis, right? The gopis, like, there's so many prayers and incidents we hear in Bhagavatam that Krishna does not reciprocate and stuff like that. But it's explained that sometimes the Lord does not immediately reciprocate with his devotees. He waits, and in this way intensifies the devotion. The example is again with the gopis. So, we hear that Krishna disappeared from them and left them searching almost all night, and so they were frustrated. So now this is interesting. Krishna says, I'm just quoting the prayer. Listen, O gopis, who cannot understand my real intention. You know this verse, Maharaj?
No, I just got a realization.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. For those souls who worship me through chanting my name and other means, I do not respond immediately. Thus, I make their worship more perfect. Not feeling my presence, those devotees develop deep humility and feel, alas, alas, everything I have done is simply useless. Because I am so unqualified and offensive, Krishna has not even shown me